Hi, I'm Josie from Funky Needlework, and I've had a question from one of my lovely customers, Jo. Jo has made a very large quilt and she needs to be able to square it off. So I'm going to go through a few pointers and hopefully set her on the right track. Just give us a second. Okay, so this quilt here, which is this one, I'm going to point to it, is nice and square. And this is a large quilt, probably not as large as the one that Jo has done, but it's still, you get the picture. So it's made up with smaller blocks, which are these little squares, although they're actually much bigger than that. And it has a couple of borders around the outside, and then it is bound at the very edges there with the same colour as the last border. Now then, underneath it on the radiator, behind those books, you'll see a quilt that's not finished yet. Now, if I'd had a large one in a state of being ready to be bound, I would show you this, but I haven't at the minute. So I'm going to work it out on some pieces of paper, fold them in different directions, and hopefully this will work for you. So, sorry, excuse the messy studio. There we go. Okay, so here it largely depends on if your quilt is going to be square or rectangular. So if it's going to be square, it's a little bit easier, because what you do is you get it corner to corner. It doesn't matter if these are, because what you're doing is you're looking for the middle of the quilt and then fold it over that way. And then you're going to work out 45-degree angle on your ruler. Most rulers, even these 6 by 24 inch rulers, have a 45-degree angle. Okay, so there we go. So we can tell that that's actually 45 degrees. There it is there. And what we want to do is just trim off that whole edge, undo it, and then check it by folding it this way. And make sure that, again, you've got the midpoint, and that each corner is the 90 degrees, and that should work. Now then, the difficulty comes when the middle of the pattern is not necessarily in the middle of the quilt. So here we've got a very wobbly pattern, and this happens sometimes if you don't square off each block as you go. Sometimes it gets a bit lumpy and bumpy. Sometimes you just kind of go off at a Scrooby Rabbit's angle. And so there, the middle of the quilt is actually there because I found it. But the middle of the pattern, I would say, is there. So you need to make a decision about whether you're going to go with the middle of the pattern or the middle of the quilt. So that's one option. The other option for when it's really wibbly wobbly like this is, and this is sometimes a very valuable thing to do, the outer border is to deliberately make it wibbly wobbly. And you could just go around it with a pair of scissors like this and almost cut out little pieces so that it's a really properly a wonky quilt. Okay, nothing wrong with that at all, because if you can't straighten it off, sometimes it's best to just go with it and make it a wobbly quilt. Now you can cut that out with your rotary cutter, and binding that will be a piece of cake if you use bias strips. So the key to a wibbly wobbly edge is bias strips. So that's, instead of them cut straight up the fabric, cut them diagonally. Okay, so that was the other option. Or if it is a rectangular quilt and it might be a little bit off, what you do is, again, you find the middle of the quilt. You find it slightly differently. So you might find it, fold it over, and then fold it over again. Like that. Open it out. So these will be wobbly edges, but you're going to open it out, and then you're going to bring this one over onto this seam, onto this one, and it'll sit nicely onto there. You can iron these on and then iron them out again afterwards. That's it. Lovely. And then again, Very similar process. Okay, so the angles that you're checking this time are that is 90 degrees there. And if that is 90 degrees and that is 90 degrees, then you're laughing. Because that means that you can fold them up this way. Oops. There we go. And you can cut that edge, and you know that when you open that out, if in doubt, you can do a little bit more trimming this way, fold it lengthways and lengthways again. Once you've found the middle and you've straightened your corners off, you know that corner's straight, so you can just cut up that edge and up that edge. Now then, I realise this is not perfect because it's not on a large quilt, but I think that all of that, hopefully, will be useful. And you'll end up with some lovely squared off quilts. Thank you.